Hi, this is Rick from For Community, creating community spaces so you can connect with others and also with God. When I turned 50, something happened on the inside of me. Some kind of voice rang out telling me it's getting real. And as a true ENTJ, I looked to the future and I made a plan. I bought this little notebook, and my vision became to slay my 50s. Slay is a word that my teenage girls taught me. And so to slay my 50s, I opened this thing up, and in every single page here, I wrote a value, one of the values. I wanted to make sure I captured all of my values, wanted to make sure that I was doing something about the things that I found very valuable. And by the time I was done with this workbook, I had a pretty good idea of what my values were and how I was going to bring my lifestyle and my aspirations into alignment so that I could start goal setting and goal reaching. And I thought it was awesome. And this is just where I started, and it's gone beyond this. Here's what happened since then, though. Working on my body was one of my values. I wanted to get into, the best kind of shape that I could at my age with my schedule. And so I hired a personal trainer, and I was working on it, and I was working out 2 to 2.5 hours every single day, every single morning, trying to get back in shape. And then, wouldn't you know it, I was diagnosed with a DVT. I've got a blood clot in my right leg. And so for the last 2 months, I have not been able to work out. And I'm like, wait a minute. I had this really great plan. It's an awesome plan. It was going to get me to where I thought I wanted to go. It was miraculous. And here I am, not able to spend almost any time exercising at all. And I'm feeling it. I'm totally feeling it. This is a setback. Now, I don't think my story is too dissimilar to any of you. You may not have a DVT, but we have all experienced what it's like to make plans, and then life happens, and now we are experiencing a setback. So let me ask you, what setback have you experienced lately? What plan have you made just to experience something that puts you in a completely different direction? If you're watching with someone and you feel comfortable with it, please pause the video and share your story. This video is based on my interpretation of James chapter 4, verses 13 to 16. In this video, we read something about our best made plans. James 4, 13 to 16. Look here, you who say today or tomorrow we are going to a certain town and we'll stay there a year. We will do business there and make a profit. How do you know what your life will be like tomorrow? Your life is like the morning fog. It's here a little while, then is gone. What you ought to say is, if the Lord wants us to, we will live and do this or that. Otherwise, you're boasting about your own pretentious plans, and all such boasting is evil. Here's a point I'm going to try to make in this video based on my interpretation of this text. Hold your plans loosely. I want to talk about future telling just for a moment. Maybe not the kind of future telling that you're thinking of. I want to talk about how future telling can show up really in my counseling sessions sometimes. Future telling can lead to something called catastrophizing. It's when we think about our life and where we're heading, and we can only come up with negative things. Maybe we only see the health risks, and we catastrophize over not being able to do something to get ourselves healthy, and we feel powerless over not being able to control the outcome of our life. Or sometimes future telling can come around somebody who's applying for a job, and they refuse to submit their resume because they're thinking, I would submit this resume, but somebody's probably going to look at it and think my resume sucks. I'm not going to get the job anyways. It's future telling in a negative way that stops us from doing something that can really make our life better. In those cases, I'd probably be using CBT to work on some thoughts and try to change the person's mode. But there's a flip side to this. It's still future telling, but it's a flip side. It scores a little higher, maybe in narcissism, and maybe has something to do with feelings of entitlement and maybe some arrogance. It's future telling around the belief that we're highly capable and can control our own outcome. It's not confidence. It's more. It's different than confidence. I mean, confidence is good. It's not prudently planning for the future, which is also good. It's the position that a person is an island and all that they need is just themselves. And they can make things happen and they can make themselves happy just because they're them, because they're so great. It's like a form of denial to protect an inflated sense of self-worth and superiority. Like whatever I plan is going to happen. It's a solid, I'm bulletproof, we might say, solid plan. I'm pretty confident that we've met people like this. People with an inflated sense of self-worth, they're blinded to the contribution of others, and they're just taking advantage of others for their own gain. Okay, so in my mind, that's the context of this text. Let's just put it in perspective. This text is not speaking against you and I planning for the future. It's not speaking against you and I having any plans of saying, stop that. The phrase, look here, you who say, this is sort of confrontational. It's directed towards a specific kind of person or a specific group of people. And looking at the commentaries in this text wasn't really helpful because we have no idea who the specific person or group of people that James had in mind is as he's writing this text. But we can know that it's not meant as a global rule for everyone against having a good plan and preparing for the future. We can't use this text to tell anyone to stop investing in RSPs or 401ks. It's not this text. This has a specific type of person in mind. It's planning with the idea that we can control our own outcome. We're in charge of our own destiny. There's nothing else to say on the matter. It is completely dismissive of the God factor. Yeah, God's got a say in everything that we do. James has something to say about all of our planning, and it's not to stop planning. It's to plan better. It's to plan with to keep in mind that God is real and he actually has his own plan that sometimes doesn't necessarily fall into alignment with ours. The text says, if the Lord wants to, we will live and do this or that. The elephant in the room regarding our planning is that we not only don't control outcome, although we can certainly shape it. I mean, we're not powerless, but there is one who does actually control outcome, and that is God. God has a will for his creation. God has a plan. And I love God's plan. Well, I don't know all of God's plan. I know some of God's plan that's been revealed to us in the Bible. You can know it too. In Jeremiah chapter 21, verse 11, the text says, I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. They are plans for good and not for disaster, to give you a future and a hope. That's the nature, that's the character of God. That's his heart for us, that he wants us to come into some kind of benefit. God ultimately wants all of us to prosper and be okay. However, that ultimate hope doesn't exist in the here and the now. The hope of all of us who are Jesus followers is in the resurrection. My hope is in the resurrection. I know that I can't control or guarantee the outcome of my plans. I still plan, but that's not where my hope lies. At the end of the day, my hope is in the resurrection and God's plan for me to prosper. And that's what I'd love for your hope to be too. And that's where I think that James is going with this text. When our hope is not in the resurrection, or when we lose sight of our priority around God and his kingdom, and that God has his own plan, if God is in front of us, then who can be against us is kind of where the text goes in another part of the Bible. Right here and right now is all that we have, and we want to work hard to control outcome, but we can't control outcome. We can do the best that we can, and please do the best that you can. We all need to have some kind of plan. However, what James is pointing out is that along with our plan, we need humility. At the end of the day, it's God that controls outcome. And thankfully, the outcome is going to be better than we could have ever accomplished on our own, making our own plans. Here's a summary of my interpretation of what I see in this text. This text is a reminder that no matter how inflated our ego becomes, we can never control outcome. It's a really good idea to humble ourselves and acknowledge that there is a God who controls both the good times and the bad times. And at the end of the day, what's going to be accomplished is what he wants accomplished. And thankfully, that's something that we can all look forward to. So, in our planning, we need to keep our hope in the resurrection. Hold our plans loosely and hold on to Jesus tightly. That's it from me to you for now. Would you please like? Would you please share? Would you please subscribe? Would you also please ask for the link? We're meeting 2 times this Sunday. Once in the morning at 10:30, once in the evening for guys only at 6 o'clock. And I'm sure looking forward to hear your interpretation of this text for a community, creating community spaces so you can connect with others and also with God. See you next time.